What are rational numbers? Well, in order to understand rational numbers, let's quickly revise fractional numbers. Fractional numbers. And if you're wondering why, then it will be clear to you shortly. So this fractional numbers, and in fractional numbers, we have a denominator p over q. Let me write it here. Let me copy it, Ctrl X and Ctrl V. Okay. So in fractional numbers, you have p over q. Fractional numbers is in this form. P is numerator and q is the denominator of this fractional number. Now, p, this p can take values 0, it can take 1, it can take 2, it can take 3, it can take 4, and so on. That means p can be integer 0 or any positive integer, right? Beginning from 0, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. Doesn't matter what number it is, but the condition is it should be positive number or the integer 0, because 0 is neither positive nor negative. It's simply 0. Okay. What about q? Well, the denominator q cannot be equal to 0, right? That was the basic of a fractional number. The denominator cannot be equal to 0, and then it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4, it can be 5, and so on. That is, denominator cannot be equal to 0, that is integer 0 cannot be in denominator, but it can be any other positive integer, any other positive integer. Okay, you can take any 1, 2, 3, and so on. So let me copy this much here. Control C, Control V. Okay. So what we have discussed till now, on the basis of that we can say P cannot be equal to -1, cannot be equal to -2, cannot be equal to -3, and so on. That is, P cannot take any negative integer. No, not allowed. Right? Similarly, Q cannot be equal to -1. Let me take with some different color. Cannot be equal to -1, cannot be equal to -2, cannot be equal to -3, and so on. That is, neither P nor Q, neither the numerator nor the denominator can take or can have negative integers. Okay, but if I include this -1, -2, -3, and so on, that is, these initial things are the same, but even if I include and if I say that yes, in this place in the numerator you can have negative integer, you can have -1 or -2 or -3 or -4, and also even in the denominator, if you can have -1, you can have -2, you can have -3 or any other negative integer. Rest all conditions are same, these are same only, but here I am saying that yes, the numerator can have negative integers, yes, q or the denominator can be a negative integer. If this is the case, then this p over q becomes a rational number. It becomes a rational number. That is, a rational number is of the form p over q, where P can be any negative integer, can be 0, and can be any positive integer. It can take any value. Q, the denominator in a rational number, cannot be equal to 0, can be any positive integer, or can be any negative integer. So what's the difference between fractional number and rational number? Fractional number cannot take negative integer in the numerator and cannot take the negative integer in the denominator. Therefore, P over Q will always be positive. Will always be positive because it cannot have negative integer either in the numerator or in the denominator. Positive, or it can be 0. Remember, 0 is neither positive nor negative. And if you're wondering how it can become 0, if the numerator, that is P, is 0, now it doesn't matter what number you divide 0 with, whether this is 1 or 2, 100, 1000 or anything. If the numerator is 0, the outcome will be, the result will be 0 only. So, fractional number can either be 0 or positive because it cannot have negative integer. On the other hand, a rational number can be negative also because in the numerator or in the denominator or in the both, numerator can also be negative, denominator can also be negative. You can have numbers like -3 divided by -2, right? You can see here both the numerator, that is P and Q, both are negative, right? Or you can have -3 over 2, here only numerator, that is P, is negative, or you can have 3 over -2, here Q is negative, right? Or it can be 0 also, because if the numerator becomes 0, then doesn't matter what comes in the denominator, this will be 0 only. So what's the basic difference? P over Q, both are same, but the only condition is that P and Q in the case of rational number can be negative, but in the case of fractional number cannot be negative. Okay. Now, all fractional numbers are rational numbers, is it? Let's see. We say that if, let's take 3 over 7 or 5 over 8. What does a fractional number say? It says that it can be P over Q. It can be of the form, it is of the form P over Q, where P can be 0 and any positive integer, and Q cannot be equal to 0 and can be any positive integer, right? So 3 over 7, 5 over 8, 0 over 9, or say that I'm writing in the form of mixed number. Let's say that's 7, 1 divided by 4. So this becomes what? This becomes 29 over 4. This is a mixed number. Now this 29 over 4 is a fraction. Clearly, all these are actually rational number because the definition of rational number clearly says that the rational number is of the form P over Q, where P can be 0, can be any positive integer, and can be negative integer as well. Similarly, Q cannot be equal to 0 but can be positive. This is a rational number, and also it can be negative also. Now since it can be positive and negative integer also, so it will contain all the fractions surely are going to have either 0 in the numerator or a positive integer. Similarly, the denominator will have a negative integer, a positive integer. So clearly this is actually a rational number. Yes, fractional numbers are rational numbers. Okay. In this case, all decimal numbers are rational numbers. Let's quickly take some examples. Let's say we are taking 4 decimal numbers, 0.987, 0.987, 1.382, 0.0010, and 6.007. Let's say these are 4 decimal numbers. Are these decimal numbers rational numbers? If we say yes, then can you prove how? Or can you check how? So let's solve for this one. This is 0.987. I want to convert this decimal number, or I want to write this decimal number in the form of fractional number. So if I multiply this 0.987 by 1000 and therefore divide also by 1000, that is, I'm multiplying 1000 over 1000, this becomes what? It becomes 0.987 times 1000 over 1000. And if you're wondering why I have multiplied by 1000, so check how many digits are after this decimal number. So after decimal number we have 1, 2 and 3. So I have multiplied by 1000. Since I have multiplied by 1000, so I have to divide also by 1000 in order to neutralize it. That is, it should be 0.987. This value should not change, because if you solve it, this will come as 1 only. So 0.987 times 1 is actually 0.987 only. Now this becomes what? This becomes 987 over 1000. Now can you see that this is actually what? This is actually a fraction, a fractional number, and we have learned that all fractional numbers are actually what? Are rational numbers. Why? Because here this numerator is 987, that is it is a positive integer. Then divided by 1000, it is also positive integer. And what does rational number says? Rational number says that P over Q, it can be of the form P over Q, where P can be 0 or any positive integer or any negative integer. So here we have positive integer. Q says it cannot be equal to 0, so it is not equal to 0. It can be any positive integer or it can be any negative integer. Yes, this is a positive integer. So this is, yes, it is a rational number. What about this one? If I solve this one, how many digits do we have after this decimal point? We have 3. So again, we are going to do the same thing. So 1.382 times 1000 divided by 1000. If you solve it, this becomes 1.382 times 1000 over 1000. This becomes 1382 over 1000. Now, is this a fractional number? Yes, this is a fractional number, or straight we can say it is a rational number. Why it is a rational number? Because P can be 0 or can be positive integer or can be negative integer. Yes, in this case it is a positive integer. Q can be positive integer or a negative integer and cannot be equal to 0. Yes, this is not equal to 0, and yes, it has a positive integer as the denominator. Yes, it is a rational number. Same thing for this one. So how many digits do we have after decimal? We have 4. So 0.0010 times 1, 2, 3 and 4. Multiply with as many zeros here, that is equal to the number of digits after the decimal. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this becomes 0.0010 times 1, 2, 3 and 4. And this gives you 2, 3 and 4. This comes as 10 over 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, yes, this is a rational number because 10 is a positive integer. P can be positive. q is not equal to 0 and q is a positive integer, so it satisfies this condition also, right? So yes, it is a rational number. Let's solve this last one. It is 6.007. We have 3 digits after decimal point, so multiply this with 1, 2, with 1000. 1, 2 and 3. Now this becomes 6.007 times 1000, and this is 1000. This gives you 6007 and 1000. So in this case, yes, it is a positive integer. P can be a positive integer. 1000 is not equal to 0 and it is a positive integer. Yes, q can be a positive integer. Therefore, this satisfies this condition of rational number. Yes, it is a rational number. All integers are rational numbers. All integers are rational numbers. So let's check. Let's say we take 5 integers. First, let's take minus 10. Then let's take minus 2. Then let's take 0. Then let's take 100. And let's say 200. Right? Now, this is minus 10. I can write this minus 10 as minus 10 divided by 1. Right? Because you divide any number with 1 by 1, you will get back that number only. Similarly, we can write it as minus 2 divided by 1. Similarly, we can write it as 0 divided by 1. But wait, we can write this 0 as 0 divided by 1, or we can write it as 0 divided by 2, or 0 divided by 3, or 0 divided by 4, or 0 divided by minus 1, or 0 divided by minus 2. It can be any integer, whether positive or negative, in the denominator. Only you cannot have 0 in the denominator. You cannot have 0 in the denominator. Rest, you take any integer in the denominator, whether positive or negative, you are going to get back that 0 only. In all these cases, like if you want to write 100 as a rational number, this is 100 over 1. So this is a fractional number. Yes, all fractional numbers are rational numbers. Even in this case, this is 200 and divided by 1. So if you divide this by 1, you get back 200 only. Now clearly, this is also a form of a rational number, right? So, but in this case, in these 4 cases, you can only have 1 as the denominator, but in the case of 0, it can have any integer in the denominator. Only 0, you cannot use 0, but rest all you can use. So this was a difference. So if you check this one, minus 10 over 1. Now, the form of fraction of rational number is p over q. P can be positive integer, it can be 0, and it can be negative. Q cannot be equal to 0, can be positive, can be negative. So in this case, minus 10 is negative, so and 1 is positive, so yes, this is a rational number. In this case, minus 2 is negative, 1 is positive, so yes, this is a rational number. In this case, 0, yes, p is equal to 0. Rest all, if you take, are either positive or negative, right? So yes, this satisfies this condition. Therefore, 0 is also is an integer, but we can say it's a rational number. 100 is a positive integer, 1 is a positive integer, so it satisfies the condition p over q of rational number. Yes, it is a rational number. 200 divided by 1, in this case 200 is positive, 1 is also positive, so it is satisfying this condition and it is a rational number. So are all integers rational numbers? Yes, they all are rational numbers.